There are moments in the world of social media drama when the chaos becomes so thick, so layered, and so relentless that even the most seasoned observers have to stop, take a breath, and wonder how things spiraled so far out of control. And if you've been watching the storm swirling around Arionne Curry, you already know this isn't your everyday celebrity dispute. This isn't a mild disagreement or a petty online back and forth. No, this is a full-scale emotional implosion happening in real time, fueled by late-night conversations, impulsive decisions, and a pattern of entanglements that seem to tighten the more she tries to pull away. What makes it even more intense is that Arionne didn't stumble into this whirlwind accidentally. She stepped into it knowingly, convinced she could handle the heat, unaware that the flames would eventually wrap around her life like wildfire. Before we go any further, prepare yourself, because today we're not just gossiping, we're breaking down the deeper psychology behind the chaos, how a person becomes trapped in a storm of their own making, why certain decisions lead to predictable heartbreak, and how comparing oneself to someone who's chosen peace can create an emotional battlefield no one wins. Let's rewind to the beginning, to the first signs that things were unraveling. It starts with a simple pattern: messages exchanged at hours when most people are asleep, phone calls that stretch long into the night, and last-minute travel arrangements that suggest urgency rather than excitement. These are not the signs of a healthy, stable, grounded connection. These are the early tremors of an emotional earthquake. People close to the situation have described Arionne as being constantly on call, ready to respond instantly whenever Martell reached out. And those who've observed her behavior over time say that the emotional intensity of these interactions became a cycle, one that left her anticipating, reacting, and sometimes chasing clarity that never arrived. Martell Holt, on the other hand, moved differently. While Arionne was reacting to every twist, Martell operated with a calmness that was almost unsettling. Witnesses describe him as calculated, controlled, even charismatic. He seemed to know the effect he had and played the role with precision, calling when emotions were high, disappearing when things calmed down, reappearing just in time to stir things up again. It created a dynamic where Arionne was always emotionally one step behind, trying to interpret mixed signals while he remained unreadable. This imbalance set the tone for everything that would follow. One of the clearest glimpses into the chaos comes from the infamous interview situation, something that should have been simple but spiraled into a comedy of confusion. According to sources who were directly involved, the initial plan was straightforward: an interview featuring Martell, with Arionne possibly participating. But nothing in Arionne's world seems to remain simple for long. First, there were phone calls about scheduling, then more calls about timing, then questions from Arionne about how the interview would help her platform, then uncertainty about whether she even wanted to participate. At one point, she reportedly asked, "How do I get views on my channel?" and was told plainly, "Do the interview." But instead of clarity, the entire situation became a back-and-forth game of hesitation, insecurity, and last-minute reconsiderations. What should have been a professional decision became deeply emotional. It wasn't just about content, it was about validation. Arionne wanted to be seen, to be heard, to prove that her involvement in Martell's life meant something. And because that emotional need sat at the root of everything, the interview became a symbol, a way to feel chosen, relevant, acknowledged. But every time she tried to take control of the situation, her uncertainty pulled her backward again. Plans were made, canceled, revived, and dropped. By the end of it, the interview never happened, and the confusion only fueled her growing frustration. To truly understand why this drama hit so hard, you have to examine the contrast. Because standing on the opposite end of this emotional battlefield is Melody Sherry, a woman who made the decision to step out of the chaos long before the flames reached their highest point. Melody chose peace. She chose distance. She chose boundaries. And those choices transformed her life. Instead of reacting publicly, she focused on her brand, her family, her stability. While Arionne was posting defensive messages and sometimes engaging with strangers online who criticized her, Melody moved with quiet grace, choosing not to entertain the noise. And social media noticed. In fact, they noticed so much that comparisons between the two women became unavoidable. Melody's glow-up became a quiet reminder of what happens when someone decides to choose themselves first, while Arionne appeared more exhausted, more defensive, and more desperate for control with each passing month. For observers, the contrast was impossible to ignore. One woman thriving in silence, the other unraveling in public. The emotional weight of that comparison seems to sit on Arionne's shoulders every time she goes live. You can hear it in her tone, sharp, tired, sometimes resentful. You can see it in her expressions, strained, defensive, tense. It's the kind of exhaustion that comes from being trapped between wanting to walk away and feeling like you can't, between craving validation and being afraid of losing relevance. It's a psychological trap, and it's one she keeps stepping into. As the story deepened, so did the chaos. Leaked screenshots appeared online. Anonymous sources started sharing snippets of late-night conversations. Reports surfaced of secret dinners, quiet meetups, and emotional exchanges that painted a picture of a relationship built on instability rather than partnership. Every new revelation hinted at a cycle that kept repeating. Late-night promises, moments of closeness, sudden distance, emotional confusion, and then the cycle restarting again. Arionne's reactions to these developments only added fuel to the fire. Instead of stepping back to regain clarity, she often posted cryptic messages, defensive comments, or live streams that hinted at deeper issues. The more she tried to shape the narrative, the more the public dissected her reactions. And the more the public dissected her reactions, the more defensive she became. It was a loop, and one she seemed unable to break free from. Meanwhile, insiders described Martell as emotionally detached, present enough to keep her connected, but distant enough to keep himself unbothered. He moved through the drama with a kind of chill composure that made his behavior even more confusing. That detachment kept Arionne on edge, constantly trying to decode his intentions or hoping for clarity that never came. What makes this situation even more complicated is the psychology behind it. When someone becomes emotionally entangled with a person who gives inconsistent attention, warm one moment, distant the next, it creates a pattern similar to addiction. The brain starts chasing the high of connection, even if that connection is unstable or unhealthy. That's what observers believe Arionne is experiencing. To her, the drama isn't just chaos, it's familiarity. It's something she's learned to navigate, something she's tied her identity to. But while she's clinging to every call, every interaction, every breadcrumb of attention, Martell moves with emotional distance. And Melody? She has long removed herself from the narrative altogether, stepping into a life built around stability, growth, and self-respect. The difference in emotional strategy is staggering. Over time, the psychological strain becomes visible. Arionne's exhaustion isn't just physical, it's emotional, mental, spiritual. It reveals itself in every live stream where her voice cracks, in every post where she tries to defend herself, in every statement where she tries to assert control she doesn't actually have. Viewers can sense it, they can feel it, and they can't help but watch the cycle repeat. As the months passed, public judgment became harsher. Comment sections filled with criticism, memes, and unsolicited advice. Fans of Melody praised her growth and strength while condemning Arionne's decisions. Even neutral observers admitted they felt secondhand stress watching Arionne's emotional roller coaster unfold online. For many viewers, what's happening isn't just drama, it's a cautionary tale. It's a reminder of what happens when someone becomes so entangled in another person's chaos that they lose their own sense of direction. It's a lesson about boundaries, accountability, and the price of ignoring red flags until the consequences become impossible to escape. And for Arionne, those consequences are playing out publicly, with every move analyzed under the brightest spotlight. So, now that we've peeled back every layer of this emotional hurricane, the late-night phone calls, the impulsive decisions, the emotional entanglements, the comparisons, the exhaustion, there's only one question left to ask. What would you do if you were in Arionne's position? Would you continue chasing clarity from someone who thrives in confusion? Would you try to shape a narrative that constantly slips through your fingers? Or would you finally take a step back, reclaim your peace, and walk away from a storm that was never yours to control? Because at the end of the day, this story isn't just entertainment. It's a reflection of what happens when someone ties their identity to chaos instead of choosing themselves. Melody chose peace. Arionne chose entanglement. And the results speak for themselves. The emotional weight of that comparison seems to sit on Arionne's shoulders every time she goes live. You can hear it in her tone, sharp, tired, sometimes resentful. You can see it in her expressions, strained, defensive, tense. It's the kind of exhaustion that comes from being trapped between wanting to walk away and feeling like you can't, between craving validation and being afraid of losing relevance. It's a psychological trap, and it's one she keeps stepping into. As the story deepened, so did the chaos. Leaked screenshots appeared online. Anonymous sources started sharing snippets of late-night conversations. Reports surfaced of secret dinners, quiet meetups, and emotional exchanges that painted a picture of a relationship built on instability rather than partnership. Every new revelation hinted at a cycle that kept repeating. Late-night promises, moments of closeness, sudden distance, emotional confusion, and then the cycle restarting again. Arionne's reactions to these developments only added fuel to the fire. Instead of stepping back to regain clarity, she often posted cryptic messages, defensive comments, or live streams that hinted at deeper issues. The more she tried to shape the narrative, the more the public dissected her reactions. And the more the public dissected her reactions, the more defensive she became. It was a loop, and one she seemed unable to break free from. Meanwhile, insiders described Martell as emotionally detached, present enough to keep her connected, but distant enough to keep himself unbothered. He moved through the drama with a kind of chill composure that made his behavior even more confusing. That detachment kept Arionne on edge, constantly trying to decode his intentions or hoping for clarity that never came. What makes this situation even more complicated is the psychology behind it. When someone becomes emotionally entangled with a person who gives inconsistent attention, warm one moment, distant the next, it creates a pattern similar to addiction. The brain starts chasing the high of connection, even if that connection is unstable or unhealthy. That's what observers believe Arionne is experiencing. To her, the drama isn't just chaos, it's familiarity. It's something she's learned to navigate, something she's tied her identity to. But while she's clinging to every call, every interaction, every breadcrumb of attention, Martell moves with emotional distance. And Melody? She has long removed herself from the narrative altogether, stepping into a life built around stability, growth, and self-respect. The difference in emotional strategy is staggering. Over time, the psychological strain becomes visible. Arionne's exhaustion isn't just physical, it's emotional, mental, spiritual. It reveals itself in every live stream where her voice cracks, in every post where she tries to defend herself, in every statement where she tries to assert control she doesn't actually have. Viewers can sense it, they can feel it, and they can't help but watch the cycle repeat. As the months passed, public judgment became harsher. Comment sections filled with criticism, memes, and unsolicited advice. Fans of Melody praised her growth and strength while condemning Arionne's decisions. Even neutral observers admitted they felt secondhand stress watching Arionne's emotional roller coaster unfold online. For many viewers, what's happening isn't just drama, it's a cautionary tale. It's a reminder of what happens when someone becomes so entangled in another person's chaos that they lose their own sense of direction. It's a lesson about boundaries, accountability, and the price of ignoring red flags until the consequences become impossible to escape. And for Arionne, those consequences are playing out publicly, with every move analyzed under the brightest spotlight. So, now that we've peeled back every layer of this emotional hurricane, the late-night phone calls, the impulsive decisions, the emotional entanglements, the comparisons, the exhaustion, there's only one question left to ask. What would you do if you were in Arionne's position? Would you continue chasing clarity from someone who thrives in confusion? Would you try to shape a narrative that constantly slips through your fingers? Or would you finally take a step back, reclaim your peace, and walk away from a storm that was never yours to control? Because at the end of the day, this story isn't just entertainment. It's a reflection of what happens when someone ties their identity to chaos instead of choosing themselves. Melody chose peace. Arionne chose entanglement. And the results speak for themselves.